Welcome to Sound Bites from Overeaters Anonymous. Our show will educate you about OA's 12-step program so you recognize the symptoms of compulsive eating and find the support you need and a program that works to help you control your eating behaviors and maintain a healthy weight. In this next hour, you will realize you're not alone and that there is hope for recovery and a whole new life free of obsession with food and weight. Now, here is your host, Naomi Lippel.
Good afternoon and welcome to Sound Bites from Overeaters Anonymous, a 12-step solution to compulsive eating. I'm Naomi Lippel, Managing Director of Overeaters Anonymous, also known as OA. On today's final program in this series, we're talking about New Year's resolutions and taking your questions about the OA program of recovery. If you have a question about OA or something you'd like to share, please call us toll-free at 866-472-5792. According to a University of Scranton study published in the Journal of Clinical Psychology, losing weight was the #1 New Year's resolution for 2012. The study also showed that a quarter of people who resolved to lose weight on January 1st go back to their old ways within a week. Overall, only 8% of those who made New Year's resolutions last year were successful in achieving their goals. So today we have 3 guests from OA, all of whom have made their weight loss resolutions a reality for the long term. They'll be talking about what finally worked for them and helping to answer callers' questions. So first, let's welcome Pamela from California. Hi, Pamela.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
You were maintaining an 85-pound weight loss for 10 years. Is that right?
Yes. Actually, I have 18 years of abstinence, but I'm maintaining almost a 90-pound weight loss as we speak today.
Fantastic. Congratulations. Also on the show is Terry from New York. Welcome, Terry.
It's really a pleasure to be here.
Tell me about your weight loss and maintenance.
Well, I've been overweight since a very young child, and my mother took me to my first diet doctor when I was 12 years old, and I yo-yo dieted 30 to 50 pounds every year until I came into OA when I was about 28, which was 35 years ago. I can't believe.
Oh.
And, I have maintained about a 50-pound weight loss since I came in, because when I came in, it was actually after a very serious, crash diet, where I lost a lot of weight and got very sick. And so yes, I have been maintaining about 50-pound weight loss for well over 20 years in OA.
Oh, that's fantastic. And our third guest is Marilyn from Montreal, Canada, who's maintaining a 65-pound weight loss. Is that right?
That's correct.
And for how long?
I've been abstinent now for 20 years. I haven't been binging for 20 years.
Great. Yeah, and just to remind our listeners, we use the word abstinence. We're talking about abstaining from compulsive eating. Abstinence can have a lot of different meanings, but in our context, that's what we're talking about. So welcome to all of you. Until we get some calls coming in, I'll just toss out some questions to you guys, and you can take turns answering them. Listeners, remember you can call in and get your questions about OA answered by dialing toll-free 866-472-5792. So, Marilyn, what was your life like before you came to OA? Did you always have an issue with food?
I did. From what I remember, as a teenager, a young child, I always felt very overweight, very embarrassed about my body, hated to do sports, felt really ashamed because of my body, and I always felt that I always felt very fat. And when I look at pictures from when I was a child, I wasn't all that fat, so it was mostly in my mind. I just felt different and worse than everybody else.
Wow. What about you, Pamela? What was it like for you?
My life was pretty insane. I was, from a very young age, I felt like there was something wrong with me, and if I could just lose 5, 10, 15, 20, whatever the number of pounds was, my life would be perfect. And until I came back into program, all I seemed to do was diet and lose weight and binge and gain it back, plus a little extra credit. It was pretty chaotic.
Yeah, sounds like it. I think we have a caller on the line. Is Tina there?
Yeah, hi.
Hi,
Hello?
Tina. Tina, welcome. You had a question?
Yeah, you mentioned New Year's resolutions and everything, and what with all the popular diet and exercise programs out there, why should I choose OA?
Very good
I'd like
question.
to answer that.
And who is this?
Pamela.
Pamela. Go for it, Pamela.
Okay, so my New Year's resolution is not to have a New Year's resolution because Overeaters Anonymous is a 12-step program, and we take everything one day at a time. So I can't plan for the next year. I can just plan for one day. And, that is so monumentally easier than having to do something for a week, a month, a year, just for one day.
And what about the idea that there's so many other diet programs out there that seem to be successful, at least from the way they advertise? So why would somebody choose OA over another program?
Because,
anybody want to take
sure.
that?
This is Terry. I certainly have experience in dozens of different weight loss programs before I came into OA, and I think the things that really made it different for me was number one, that we really are a group, a community of like-minded people who all have a similar problem. And when I was doing these diets, whether I was going to a doctor or even in a commercial weight loss program, which was a group, it was still, you'd go to a meeting and then you'd leave, and you were really on your own to do it for the rest of the time until you went back for a weigh-in or whatever the thing was. It's really a very isolating thing to be on a diet, especially when you have friends and family who are not on diets, and, you're going out to dinner with them, and you have to, you just have to eat differently if you want to lose weight. And in OA, I found, friends who really understood what the difference was between, just wanting to lose weight and be obsessed with the weight and wanting to understand why I had this, this eating disorder, whatever you want to call it, this problem with food that was keeping me obsessed about my body and keeping me, as Pamela said before, like thinking everything will be fine if I only lose X amount of weight.
Right. So you really have the opportunity in a way to dig deeper, it sounds like.
Absolutely. And not, they say, the other thing about OA is that it works on 3 levels. It works on the physical level, yes, eating healthy and getting to a healthy optimum weight, whether you're under eating or overeating. And then it deals on an emotional level of trying to figure out why we turn to food, to calm ourselves. And also it's a spiritual program, but, it's not a religious program, and you don't have to believe in any religion or God or anything. I mean, but it really does a lot of, it does give you a much broader approach for dealing with this issue that, most people think is just food. You mentioned the statistic, but the other thing is, another national statistic that I'm very familiar with is that something like 95% of all people who diet gain the weight back.
Right,
and
yes.
I don't think that would be true if you surveyed, long-term OA members. I don't think it would be anywhere. It would be nothing like that. It wouldn't be in the 90s for sure, because
that
we
is
have long-term
absolutely
weight loss.
true. Yes, when we did our survey in 2010, I don't have the numbers in front of me at the moment, but it certainly was apparent that maintaining the weight loss or maintaining the healthy weight for an extended period of time was the case for many of the people who responded in the survey. Past 1 year, up to 5 years, into 10 years, into 20 years, just as you all have. So Marilyn, tell me about the kind of resolutions that you would make about your weight and eating before you found OA.
Well, you know what, I was thinking about that, and I felt so powerless over my eating. I felt so out of control with my eating that I don't even remember making resolutions because I never felt I could do it. And I was just too overwhelmed with the desire and the need to eat. I would sometimes, for me, the only resolution that I could make was not to eat all day, and then I'd binge all night. So that I kept. But to think even in terms of a year, I could never think that long ahead. You were talking about, why choose OA over weight loss programs, and for me, I tried those different weight loss programs, and I just couldn't. I could lose weight with them, and I know they advertise that you do, and I could lose weight with them, but I could never keep it off. And it was I was so embarrassed and ashamed to go to the program and to admit that. And I think for me a big difference in OA was that if I would have trouble and come to a meeting, I never felt ashamed. Sometimes I was ashamed in my mind, but everybody was so happy to see me and so welcoming. And that to me is a big, big difference, that there's no shame in OA.
Yeah, that's a great point, because I think a lot of people live with that shame for so many years, and it must have been quite an experience to give that up, really, or, however you want to put it, to let go of the shame. Must be really freeing.
I needed to accept that I have this eating problem, this food problem, to accept it and to do something about it and to take responsibility for it. And I felt I was able to get that kind of support, the non-judgmental support in the rooms
excellent.
of OA. And I didn't feel that way so much.
Thank you. We have to take a short break, Marilyn. So we will be back in a moment. This is Soundbites from Overeaters Anonymous on the Voice America Health and Wellness channel. Stay tuned.
You are listening to Soundbites from Overeaters Anonymous with Naomi Lapel. To find out more about OA, please visit www.oa.org. Now, back to today's program.
Welcome back to Soundbites from Overeaters Anonymous. We're talking with guests Pamela, Terry, and Marilyn from OA about New Year's resolutions and their recovery in OA. If you have a question for our guests, call us at 866-472-5792. All right, so Terry, I think you were going to break in there and share something about New Year's resolutions for you.
Oh, actually, it was back to answering that question about, of all the diet programs out there, why should I choose OA? And for just in case there are listeners who aren't familiar with 12-step programs, it's not a small thing. That also there's no charge for OA. OA is free, other than asking for what donations at meetings, whatever people can afford to donate, a few dollars. And so I always get the feeling, unlike commercial weight loss programs, that the people who are helping run OA really are not in it for any other reason than really because they just really want to help me and people like me who who have a problem with overeating and other food issues.
Yes, and that's a really good point to remind people that there are no dues or fees, like membership fees, to come to OA, to be a part of OA. We do pass a basket at meetings to, help collect to pay for expenses and support the organization, but that's voluntary. And you can come to any meeting, and you don't have to sign up and send in a membership form or anything. If you decide that you want to be a part of OA, you just be a part of OA and work the program and come to meetings and get the support that you need. Pamela, I'm curious, you said a little bit about your resolution was not to make any more resolutions. So why do you think people struggle so much with New Year's resolutions? Like, what's the problem?
Part of it, I think, is a radical change, expecting to get from black to white with a flip of a switch. And compulsive overeating exists on a physical, an emotional, and a spiritual level. And we have to learn a new way of living. And so I can just make a resolution to do the best I can every day, but I can't put that goal out there, because when I used to say, I'm just going to get down to this weight, I got down to that weight on every commercial diet program there was, and I probably did it twice on every program. Well, I tried 3 times. And in my experience, I gained and lost 685 pounds, never weighing more than 220, never weighing less than 120. So I tried them all again and again, and I just can't make such a big change. All I had to do was go to a meeting, and that's how I started. And then I was willing to have somebody to work with, a sponsor. Then I was willing to think about my food, and I didn't change it day and night. I just took out maybe one little thing. Maybe I just said no second helping. But it was a very slow process.
Yes. And then at the same time, you're also working the steps, and so you're kind of exploring and, in a way, researching your own self in terms of what drives you to overeat, or how you respond to emotional situations and stresses, and other ways to respond. So you're kind of doing all of it at once, really. Is that true?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, and the best thing is, because those of us that are in 12-step programs feel like the problem is really our mind, we don't try to think ourselves into the right behavior. We act ourselves into the right thinking. And we always say we act as if. So I can tell you right now, today, I got up and did 2 things that I really didn't want to do. But they were in the literature as things I should do. I should take contrary action. Well, there's 3 things, but one of them I really didn't do. Okay, I'll just be honest. Okay, I'm doing the best I can. But I did 2 things, and having my druthers, no. I think at that point in time I might have just wanted to stay in bed and eat some chocolate, but I didn't.
Yeah.
I did a contrary action, and pretty soon, as you learn to work the steps to get out of yourself, to start being more giving, and a big part of the program is giving service. Once you start doing that, and you look around, you say, gee, I guess I don't have it so bad after all.
Yeah.
And once you're in a good mood, then who wants chocolate? Hey, bring on the broccoli.
Now, one of you, I think it was Marilyn or Terry, said something about before you came into OA, you had lost a lot of weight and gotten quite ill. Which one was that?
That was Terry, me.
Terry. Hi, Terry. So can you tell us a little bit about that? I guess you could call that kind of where you hit bottom.
Oh, yeah. It was a diet that I had read about or heard about, and it was I was on liquid protein. It was called the liquid protein diet, and I was on liquid protein for 6 weeks. I did not eat a bite of solid food. I would drink these like 3-ounce things of this purple liquid that was liquid protein, basically, that supposedly gave you all the, amino acids and whatever it is you needed. And it was truly insane, because I remember I was in my 20s, and I went out on a date with this guy, and he took me out to dinner, and he sat there and he ate dinner, and I had a cup of tea, because I and I thought this was perfectly normal, because because losing weight was the most important thing in my life, was, just to lose the weight and get down to a certain size. And, many years, and I lost a tremendous amount of weight, and I was, really too thin. And I thought I was gorgeous, of course, because she can never be too thin in my head. And, many, many years later, my boss at the time, who I ran into, and we've become friends again, and she said to me, "What was it that I remember you did this thing where you were on this diet and you were green, and we all thought you were going to die," like everybody in the office. And, like the idea that people do these things to their body in the name of losing weight. And, when I came into OA and I learned that it's really about eating healthy and about eating in a way that makes me feel good about myself, and not eating in a way, like thinking about what I'm going to eat in advance, so that I don't, just pick up something and then, as soon as I've finished eating it, I feel like, why did I eat that? I didn't really, now I feel fat, and, it's so much about good health and common sense. And,
yes.
And a lot of the times you really do need other people who have the same food issues as you do, to talk these things over. Because I'll tell you, I see these diets on TV, and I mean, today I saw something, on TV where you sprinkle something on your food, and people, this one lost 50 pounds, and this one, by sprinkling some chemical on their food. I mean, it's really amazing how, the weight loss industry, the advantage that they take of people, because we all are, really overweight. People are always so desperate to lose weight.
Yeah. And I've seen that a lot of people in OA say that OA was the last house on the block for them. And I'm hearing that from all three of you, that you had really tried everything. And by the time you got to OA, you were desperate enough to be open to a different approach.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's like I've actually put weight on in OA, and then taken it off again. And, not a lot of weight, like maybe 10 pounds over, a 3-year period, and then, I take it off again. But the idea of doing it in any way other than the way I do, talking to my sponsor, figuring out what is, the best way for me to eat. What are my trigger foods? What are the situations that I tend to overeat in? It's not just
That's
about,
good.
It's not just like, here's what you should eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the next 10 days. I mean, it isn't about that. It's also about, what's your day? What are you doing today that could trigger, you wanting to eat? I mean, sometimes if I'm home working alone at my computer, I know, like at 2:30, 3 o'clock, like I'm going to want something to eat because, I'm just bored or nudgy or isolated or whatever. But I have people in OA to talk to about that stuff, and I have actions that I can take at that time so I can, and it passes. It passes, and then I, it's easy to wait till dinner because OA gives me tools that I can use at those moments when I think I have to eat something or, I'm going to die, or I have to eat something. I'm really hungry. I have to eat something. And then, I'm not really hungry. Because if you eat three proper meals a day, your body has enough food.
Yeah.
So.
That's a great point. Really, really important things for people to know. We are going to be taking another short break. If you have any questions for our guests, remember you can call in 866-472-5792. You're listening to Soundbites from Overeaters Anonymous on Voice America.
I knew I had a problem, but I didn't know what to do about it.
I tried counting calories, I took pills, eating, and then more eating.
I really wanted to stop, but nothing could make me stop.
At one point, it was so bad that I just felt like giving up.
I felt so alone.
Like nobody else could possibly understand.
We understand. We're Overeaters Anonymous, and we have helped thousands of people just like you. People who want to stop their compulsive eating and start living a healthy, rewarding life.
Overeaters Anonymous, help me get my life back.
Now I eat in a way that's healthy and good for me.
I never realized what I was missing out on.
With OA, I am living again and loving it.
Start living the life you deserve with help from Overeaters Anonymous. Find us on the web at oa.org.
Welcome back to the show. We're taking your questions live on the air, so call us at 866-472-5792. So we have Casey on the line who had a question for our guests. Casey, are you there?
I am. Actually, I have a couple of questions. You keep talking about having a sponsor.
Yes.
And what does that mean? And can I still come if I can't find someone who's willing to sponsor me to join?
Great questions, Casey. Thank you. Marilyn, would you like to talk a little bit about sponsoring?
Sure. Sponsoring is just having another member in the program. We talk about finding somebody who has what we want and asking them how they did it. And it's sort of like having a mentor or having just somebody to help explain the program to me. I have a sponsor. I've had a sponsor over all the time that I've been, and it hasn't been the same sponsor. It does change at times, and I do sponsor people, and it's really to be available to answer questions. And for me, it's very important to have one person. Even though people are friendly at meetings, it's important for me to have one person that I go to consistently. It helps me to develop a relationship in the program and somebody that I feel, comfortable talking about things. And so it's really important to do that. But we don't need a sponsor to become a member of Overeaters Anonymous. We just show up to be a member.
And part of the meeting format, Casey, is that we ask sponsors, people who are willing to sponsor, to raise their hand. And so at the meetings, you'll see people in the room who've been in the program for a while or maybe even a long while who are willing to sponsor raise their hands. And if you happen to be in a meeting where there isn't anyone available at that time to sponsor, you can go to another meeting and see if you can find a sponsor there, or you can ask around, ask some of the other members. They may have sponsors they're working with. Just make yourself known that you're looking for a sponsor, and you will get one. But you don't have to have a sponsor in order to come to meetings. Terry, did you want to say anything more about sponsoring?
Yes, I know that I've had several sponsors over time, and sometimes it does take a little bit of time to get a sponsor, but there are interim sponsors, and it's really, I like using the expression of a mentor. It's not, because sponsor somehow means like you have to have that, and you really don't. I mean, I've been in program in OA for long periods without a sponsor, and I've had a friend that I called every day, a friend in OA who I would call and talk about my food with or whatever issues I was dealing with. So it's really important for you to know that you don't need a sponsor to be in OA. And there's also phone meetings where, there's many telephone meetings for people who can't get to face-to-face meetings, and they always ask for available sponsors on the phone meetings to identify themselves. So, and sometimes you get a sponsor and you think it's going to work and it doesn't, and, you just end the relationship, just that nature of the relationship, and then you find somebody else. And then once you've been in the program for, whatever period of time you feel comfortable that you understand it, then, you can be a sponsor and you can help other people, which is really what the foundation of the 12 steps is all about, is helping somebody else with their same issue.
Right. And so sponsoring is not something, I guess the only qualification to be a sponsor, other than being willing, is that you've been in program, you've worked through the program a certain amount of time, you've worked through the steps to a certain level of recovery. You don't have to get any kind of a certification. You don't get paid, that kind of thing. So what would you say, Pamela, to a newcomer who comes to OA? Let's say you're at a meeting, a newcomer shows up next week, and he or she is they're desperate to get a handle on their eating issues. Like, what would you say to them to help them feel comfortable? Did somebody say something in particular to you at a meeting that kept you coming back all these years?
No, I actually saw recovery in a friend, and it wasn't the physical recovery, it was the emotional recovery that attracted me to the program of Overeaters Anonymous. I always say that I could join any of these programs. I started having food issues when I was 9 years old, but I could use a variety of activities or substances to avoid life, to avoid responsibility. If I saw someone new come in a meeting, I always try to make them feel welcome and give them my phone number.
Mm-hmm.
So they'd have somebody to call. Now, I spoke earlier about not wanting to do something. Sometimes the phone rings, and I think on one level, oh no. But on the other level, every time I answer that phone and speak to a new person and feel the hope in their heart being transmitted from the recovery I have, changes my day.
Sure. Yeah.
So grateful.
What about you, Marilyn? What is something, when you come to a meeting and there's a newcomer there, are there particular questions that you get from them that, like something in particular they're looking for from you?
Well, I think people are new people. When I was new, it's like, what do I have to do? And also, what does it all mean? I think sometimes at meetings we use words that maybe is hard for people to understand. It's a very different way of looking at my food issues. Like when I went to commercial programs, I would get a diet, and they'd say, go and do it and weigh yourself and come back next week. And this is a very different way of looking at things. So I think it's, for me, certainly when I came into my first meeting, it's hard to understand all of that. And so when I see somebody who's new, I like to tell them that it's going to be confusing at the beginning. It's confusing, and it's the best thing. For me, the best thing was that I went to I was very lucky. There were several meetings not far from my house that I could go to in 1 week, and I did that. And that's what I say to people also is, the more meetings I go to, the more I can understand and the easier it gets. So, And also making calls. I know we talked a bit about sponsoring. I was very embarrassed, and it was hard for me to call people and say, I don't understand this. Could you explain it to me? I was afraid I would be imposing on somebody. I always had such a low self-esteem that I thought nobody was going to like me and nobody would want to speak to me. So I try to encourage people to call. I tell them that it's really important for me to receive a call. It helps me immensely. in my day, if the phone rings and it's somebody from the program, it helps me to think about the program and to put my mind into that time, to think about things about Overeaters Anonymous and that. So it helps me a lot to get a phone call. And so I encourage people to make calls and to get over it's hard to get over that embarrassment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, we hear, and actually we say a lot, we've said it on the program, you know, every time we talk about you're not alone. That's such an important sentiment to get across to people. And I wonder if you can talk a little bit, Terry, about the isolation that was there for you before you found OA and why hearing you're not alone was so important.
Oh, it's a very, very important benefit of OA. Before, I often would spend weekends alone in my apartment, you know, eating. I mean, you know, maybe not 20, you know, every second of the day, but, you know, food was my friend. Food, I learned at a very early age that food, you know, was a calming, you know, calmed my anxieties, made me feel happy. You know, of course it didn't last very long, but, and so, you know, when I was a young adult, you know, I'd come home from work, I would be exhausted. The idea of cooking a real meal for myself seemed overwhelming. So, you know, I'll just have some ice cream, or I'll have some cookies, or, you know, slice of pizza, you know, 4 slices of pizza or whatever. And I would very often, you know, isolate with the food, like watch television and eat. Like that was my company and that was my social life. And it was very easy and very comfortable. And, but I felt, you know, terrifically alone. I felt like, you know, I'm probably the only person in the world that's sitting here eating a pint of ice cream in front of the TV. Like, who does that? You know, or, you know, or who takes, you know, who eats frozen food before it's you know, frozen cake before it's defrosted, or, you know, things that I did with food that, you know, I just really assumed that I was the only person in the world who did things like that. And, you know, and when I first came to my first OA meeting and I heard other people talking about things, and, you know, and we also welcome, you know, undereaters and anorexics and bulimics. And, you know, I mean, I definitely during a period of my life had some issues with, you know, overusing laxatives just purely for weight loss. You know, like, oh, I ate too much today, so I'll take some laxatives and get rid of it. And, you know, I thought I was the only person who did that too. And, you know, so to come into an OA meeting and hear people being honest about what they did, and, you know, and was like, oh, I could talk to that person. Like, I don't have to be embarrassed because that person isn't going to laugh at me because they, you know, like I used to go to therapy and I would talk to my therapist about, you know, why I ate, and we would try to, I spent probably $10,000 in therapy trying to figure out why I ate. But it was really a one-way street because the therapist had no idea what I was talking about. And in OA, when I talk to a friend about, well, why do you think I have to figure out why did I eat? It's like, you know, they sometimes have some really good insight because they're talking from their own experience.
Yes.
And so it's really a two-way dialogue, and it's, you know, it's an amazing breakthrough for isolation to realize that there are all these people that really, really get it.
And I would think that being in isolation like that and then coming to an OA meeting, just that act alone must take a lot of courage. What do you think, Marilyn?
Oh, yes. I get calls, people, because my name is on the people who call OA in Montreal get my name, and I like to say that it takes a lot of courage to call even. Because I remember how scared I was even to call to get information about a meeting. And then when my first meeting, I remember it was such a relief to hear people talk about their food issues, but I was so afraid because I felt that I couldn't do it. Sure, they can do it, but I felt so ashamed and angry at myself that I felt that I couldn't do it. So It was a relief and a fear at the same time, and it takes a lot of courage to go to the second meeting, too.
So interesting. Hey, it's time for us to take another short break. So you are listening to Sound Bites from Overeaters Anonymous on the Voice America Health and Wellness channel. I'm Naomi Lapel. Stay with us. Welcome back to Sound Bites from Overeaters Anonymous. If you have any questions about what you've heard today or on our program the past 13 weeks, do give us a call at 866-472-5792. We would love to hear from you. So in this last segment, ladies, I wanted to give you each a chance to answer the following question. So we'll start with you, Marilyn. Besides the physical recovery and the weight changes you've experienced, how else has your life changed as a result of the OA 12-step program?
Do you have 3 hours?
Nope.
My life has changed a lot. I've been in program for 35 years, and it's just because for me, the philosophy of Overeaters Anonymous is that it's not what we eat, it's not what I eat, it's what's eating me, and I had to deal with all that stuff, and it's just from being so afraid to think of me doing this kind of show is just amazing because I would never talk about my eating stuff. I was just so embarrassed and ashamed. Now I'm able to talk to people about it, and it's just changed my attitude about life, and I've changed completely. After being in program for a while, my husband said to me, we don't fight that much anymore, and I laughed because to me it was just because of program. A lot of my rage, I was just so angry because of my crazy eating, and I've dealt with one of the steps we talk about the steps, one of the steps in the program is looking at my personality. We call it our character defect, and just looking at it and seeing I have to take responsibility and change my behavior and not focus. It's much easier for me to focus on everybody's behavior and everybody's problems and not deal with my own issues. So OA has changed my way of looking at life and has taught me an awful lot about dealing with people, about dealing with my relationship with my kids is just a miracle for me. I have adult children, and they want to spend time with me, and I'm just so grateful to this program because my whole attitude about everything, having patience, I was always so impatient and always so angry, and I would never express it, of course, but what I did was I ate over it, and now...
Sure, right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic. Pamela, how about you? How has your life changed?
I think what changed for me is now I like myself. My whole life I spent 90% of my time beating myself up and the other 10% of the time allowing you to beat me up. And that wasn't a lot of fun.
No.
And as I got into the program, as I accepted who I was, I began to like myself more. And you know what happened? All those people who didn't like me, now they like me too. And part of it is I learned a lot of things in this program. When I first came in, I was afraid to talk to anybody. And I heard people saying, when I first came in, I'd come late to every meeting and then I'd sneak out the door early. And I said, I'm tough. I'm going to come early and stay late. I'm not afraid of any of these people. I was scared to death. But I came in and I said, how can I help? And the only conversation I had to have was, are we putting 4 chairs or 5 chairs in a row? And do we empty the trash out here? I was always, and before you knew it, everybody thought I was the nicest, most helpful person. They didn't know I was really a despicable, felt terrible about myself, and was doing this just to avoid having to talk to you. Because if you really looked at me inside in those days, you would have seen something that would have scared you. I have a new way of acting, and I say, how are you? How can I help you? So my life is easier. It's not perfect. I don't have Brad Pitt. I don't have $1 million, but I'm happy with what I have.
That's awesome. And what about you, Terry?
Oh, I echo a lot of what both Marilyn and Pamela have said. I mean, number one, before program, I was very angry. And also I blamed everybody else for whatever it is that I did that I was unhappy or angry about. And what I've learned in OA, besides how to take care of myself physically, how to really put myself first, and but I've learned that I'm responsible for my own happiness. That I can't expect other people to change or situations to change, that I'm the one who has to change. And nobody ever said that to me. No therapist ever said that to me. No family member ever said that to me. I only learned that in OA, that I'm responsible for my life and for my happiness, and attitude. And attitude is everything. I really learned that in OA too. And also that, the idea, I used to feel like, when I was dieting, I was a good person, and when I was overeating, I was a bad person. And,
right.
And what I've really learned is I'm a good person 24/7. I'm a good person just because I live and breathe. Everybody, I'm just one among many. That really the humility that I've learned, and humility is very, very different concept in OA than it is. It's not humiliation. It's really just accepting my place in the world, that I'm no better and no worse than anybody else. And, yes, I have this food eating issues, and I do have a problem with food that, but that doesn't define me. And before program,
that's so great. Yeah.
Before program, it used to define me. And, so I've gained much, much, much more than I ever imagined that I would when I first came in. I came in only to lose weight. We have a great slogan in the meetings I go to where, I came for the vanity, but I stayed for the sanity. Because I have lost. People ask me, why you've maintained this weight. You're a little person. Why are you still going to those meetings? I go because my goal in OA is to help newcomers to, learn about how to do this by sharing my experience. But more importantly, and this is what Pamela said at the very beginning, it's because it's a one day at a time. And just because I've been thin and haven't, picked up a lot of, binging or bad eating habits, it doesn't mean if I stop going that, that's one of the reasons why people keep the weight off, is because they keep coming back.
Right, and, of course. Of course,
so
that makes perfect sense.
That's the other thing that I've learned, and it's fun. I mean, a lot of meetings, there's a lot of laughter. There's a lot of heaviness and people sharing their problems, but there's also a lot of laughter and a lot of great times and a lot of joy and, a lot of cheerleading.
That's so great. Hey, we've actually come to the end of our program. So thank you again so much to Pamela, Terry, and Marilyn for joining us today. If you think you or someone you care about has a problem with compulsive eating or other eating issues, go to our website at OA.org. There you can do a self-test to see if you might have a problem with compulsive eating. You can read all kinds of information about OA and purchase literature, listen to podcasts, including all the episodes of this Voice America series, and find a meeting in your area. We have over 6,500 face-to-face, online, and telephone meetings in about 80 countries worldwide. We also have our triennial World Convention coming up in August 2013 in Cleveland, Ohio, which is open to both newcomers and current OA members. Go to OA.org or call us at 505-891-2664. You may have noticed that the graphic used for this program online is of one hand reaching out to another. That's what you'll find in OA, one compulsive eater reaching out and supporting, encouraging, guiding, and giving hope to someone else who is suffering. So I'd like to close this program with the following words penned by our founder, which are read at OA meetings around the world in dozens of languages every day. I hope they remind you that you are not alone and that recovery from compulsive eating is possible and within your reach. I put my hand in yours, and together we can do what we could never do alone. No longer is there a sense of hopelessness. No longer must we each depend upon our own unsteady willpower. We're all together now, reaching out our hands for power and strength greater than ours, and as we join hands, we find love and understanding beyond our wildest dreams. I'm Naomi Lapel with Overeaters Anonymous, wishing you a life beyond your wildest dreams. Thank you for listening.